Nostalgia has resurfaced in the public consciousness, taken on a new form. It has emerged as a potent and a strategic tool for brands and culture, fueled by Gen Z and millennials seeking solace and authenticity and connection amidst the uncertainties of the global landscape these days. This resurgence in nostalgia has led to the revival of the 90s, the Y2K, the 2000s, and even mid 2010 fashion trends, including the dark lips, the platforms, the music from Oasis and pulp and tech innovations. However, this nostalgia is not merely a reputation of the past, it is nostalgia, a new term it's been coined, nostalgia, a fusion of familiar aesthetics with modern twists. This is achieved through the integration of AI, social media, storytelling, and reimagined products, creating meaningful and forward-looking experiences that resonate with audience. And nostalgia isn't just about living in the past, it's about anchoring ourselves in uncertain times. Familiar memories feel like home, don't they? My special guest today defined nostalgia then, in the 90s, and now. When we hear their hit songs, we are hit with nostalgia and feelings from, I don't know, for me, a simpler time. And now, 30 years later, they may even be giving us that nostalgic feeling again with their new album, Wanderlust, and their single, Coming Home. So let's go back to 1996. The world crackled with the sound of dial-up modems. AOL was our only choice to access the internet, and You Got Mail introduced us to email, which was a new way to communicate with anyone, anywhere in the world. The Sony Discman popped open like a promise, playing our shiny CDs and replacing our audio tape playing Walkmans. CDs would dominate for another 3 years until Napster introduced streaming music in 1999. Remember Napster? Effectively killing CD sales in the early 2000s. Teenagers still cruise the streets in their first cars. Their music drifted out of car windows on warm summer nights. Casey Kasem hosted American Top 40, and everywhere you went, I mean everywhere, the radio was on. This was the moment suspended between the analog world we grew up in and the digital future that would soon consume us. 1996 was the heroin chic, Kate Moss era. Women wore minimalist Calvin Klein slip dresses, monochromatic neutrals, wide leg trousers, and oversized denim everything. Jackets, carpenter jeans, platform shoes, and chunky heels were inspired by the Britpop Spice Girls. Chokers, tattoo necklaces, tiny sunglasses, and the Rachel cut are still trending in 1996. Butterfly clips began to show up. Espresso machines are hissing in every new cafe as mainstream culture adopts the coffee house culture. That summer of 1996, a new voice arrived. It was soft. It was breathy and light. It was dreamy and bright. Her name, Donna Lewis. Donna Lewis' debut single, I Love You, Always Forever, hit number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the summer and the fall of 1996. Stayed there from August to October. Wow. It was blocked, though, unfortunately, from getting to that number 1 spot by the Macarena, the Bayside Boys mix. Should have knocked them out of there. It stayed on. You have my vote. It stayed on Billboard's Top 100 at number 2, like I said, from August until October, which was 9 straight weeks in a row. It wasn't just a song that charted, it wrapped itself around the world. We loved it, and we hoped it would play forever. And I cannot believe it's been 30 years. It's the 30th anniversary of Donna's hit, I Love You Always Forever, next year, 2026. Meanwhile, across the ocean, another sound was taking shape. A composer who would redefine the BBC's auditory identity, a man whose tones, pulses, and textures would become the soundtrack to newsrooms, broadcasts, dance floors, and global storytelling for decades. These were two artists running on parallel tracks. One was crafting the intimate and the eternal. One was shaping the universal. Both helped create the sound of a changing world. Brought together eventually by fate, today they collaborate and they share their vision for a new world. So, do you remember those days and those nights? What were you doing? Do you remember how you felt? It comes back to me vividly. And the pretty good times, to admit it. So settle in with us. And if you can, let the memories flood your consciousness. Let the music return. And let's take a trip together back to the style, the culture, the music, and the feeling of the mid-90s. And to the artists who helped define it. Donna Lewis and David Lowe on The Jeremiah Show. In 1996, the United Kingdom was brimming with swagger, emerging as a source of innovative and electrifying sounds and cultural energy. It was a nation caught between tradition and reinvention, and the world could feel that it was changing. Something new was coming. In 1996, Britpop was roaring at full volume. Oasis and Blur were defining the attitude of the generation. The Spice Girls crashed onto the scene with Wannabe, launching a wave of color, confidence, and global girl power. Girl power began at this time. Electronic innovators like The Prodigy, Massive Attack, and the Chemical Brothers were dismantling the old rules of music composition. In fashion, in UK mirrored the mood of the land. The women wore Union Jack dresses, those platform shoes, Britpop parkas, cyber club metallics, and the minimalist cool that was drifting in from Europe. London was the epicenter of Cool Britannia. Top of the Pops owned Thursday nights, and across living rooms from Manchester to London, viewers were beginning to experience a shift in television and news that were evolving and adapting a modern global visual language. The UK felt like a country stepping into a new era. And behind the scenes, broadcasters across Britain were beginning to rethink the very sound of news, what modern news should feel like. It was into that world that one composer quietly began to shape the sonic identity of a whole nation. From BBC News to The One Show, Panorama, Grand Designs, and even the London 2012 Olympic Games, his music is woven into daily life across the UK and around the world. Internationally, he has created sonic identities for Bloomberg, Euronews, CCTV China, Al Arabia, and NDTV India. As Touch and Go, his single Would You reached number 3 on the UK charts and became a global hit. Of course, I am speaking of the great David Lowe. David is an established composer, arranger, and producer whose work defines the sound of British broadcasting. Welcome, David, to the show.
Very, very nice to be here. What a wonderful introduction that was too. Thank you very much.
Hey, I'll take any excuse to go back in time.
Yeah.
And go back to that time. Was it a good time for you, David?
It was a great time, and it was in a way it was probably my most creative time, I'd say, the 90s, because it wasn't just the birth of the music, it was the birth of the technology as well, and we were using effectively old technology in those days because it was changing all the time. And it was analog technology, and it was much more of a sort of an endeavor to create a piece of music with the equipment then, which now you can do obviously with computers, and it's fantastic and amazing. But then it was much more of an endeavor, just to find the sounds
Yeah.
and manipulate everything to work, So it was much more sort of hands-on. So, and I even with that restraint, I found that it was probably in terms of all the different ideas I was doing and all the work that I was doing then, that it was probably I'd always say that was probably some of my most best ideas were coming out then.
I love that you gave me that answer because it basically lays up my first question for you perfectly. When I was thinking of this era, I was thinking, what were you, David? What were you hearing? What were you feeling? And what were you drawing from that helped you create that work that eventually shaped the sound of the BBC? But tell me what you're like
Well,
hearing.
yeah, it was interesting really because getting that actual commission to do the BBC News it was a real sort of pinnacle at the end of the 90s for me because it was almost like I built up to that point from being a kid really because when I was a kid I loved the BBC. I was in awe of the BBC. I didn't tell anybody, but I was just like, the BBC. And I used to get goosebumps just thinking about the BBC when I was a kid. I used to pretend to, like cameras and had studios. I had all that going on. But that wasn't really musical. So I've always had this link with the BBC. And as the time went on, it sort of, that I always feel that doing the news was a bit of a pinnacle point of like hitting the sound of the BBC. It all came into that one moment, and the people that I was working with at that time, the designer of the whole BBC News brand was so creative and inspiring as a person to work with that he pushed me into directions that I wouldn't have sort of thought of going, in a sort of guiding sort of way. So yeah, it felt like scoring the goal that won the World Cup. It's like, hey, because it just all happened in a flash almost, and the way that ideas pop. Donna's probably feels the same, but sometimes ideas just literally come out of nowhere. They pop into your head, and I find sometimes with my sort of work, because you're writing to a brief and you're working with people and you're thinking, I've got to do something that they're going to like, that creates a sort of pressure and a slight sort of creative anxiety almost. And
Yeah.
so you can sort of have ideas quick, they just pop in because you need an idea quick. And your brain goes, oh, here's an idea. And you go, I've got an idea. And off you go. Getting the confidence to actually think that idea is okay because you spend a lot of time thinking you're no good, or you're not as good as everybody else, and so you have to get over that, and then you think, no, actually, I'm going to go with that.
Did it
And
change your life?
it did, in a way, it did. Well, yeah, I mean, it's so it just moves everything to another level, really.
Mhm.
And it defines your life in a way. And it's sort of, I suppose, it has defined my life because it's been pretty much those 26 years, I suppose. So it's been, well, I would over a third of my life has been, the BBC News theme's taken that, and I've grown with it, and it's grown with me and stuff. And so yeah, and in terms of, I suppose, other work that came off it, and the way that it's redefined the sound of news, and it did actually. It was quite a sort of leap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's
So
take a quick commercial break, and I want to listen to one of your hit song, "Would You?" that went to number 3 on the Billboard Top 100 from Touch and Go. This is in 1998. Where you're going to be right back with Donna Lewis, so don't go anywhere. And David Lowe is going to stay with us as well. We'll be right back.